It was a sweltering night in Dakar, and the sky looked ready to break open at any moment. The air was thick, charged with electricity, as if the whole universe was about to cry. Sadio Mané was on his way home after a long day filled with commitments, interviews, institutional visits, meetings with his agent, nothing out of the ordinary for a player of his caliber. Still, he felt a different kind of fatigue that night. It wasn't physical. It was as if something was pulling him off his usual path. As the car glided down the main avenue, he asked the driver to stop at a local pharmacy. It wasn't one of those upscale pharmacies he frequented in other countries. It was a corner shop, with a faded sign and a bell on the door that jingled every time someone walked in. He just wanted to buy a simple painkiller. He had a mild headache, maybe from the heat, maybe from going too long without real rest. The pharmacy was nearly empty. There was a clerk behind the counter and, in one corner, a woman sitting down, hugging a small bundle of children's clothes. She was trembling, her face hidden beneath a worn-out scarf, and her hands gripped the fabric with almost desperate strength. Sadio didn't notice her at first. He walked up to the counter, requested the medicine, and waited impatiently for the clerk to return with the box. But something about that woman caught his attention. Maybe it was the faint sob that escaped as she tried to hold back her tears. Maybe it was the way her shoulders shook silently, as if she was fighting to remain invisible. He turned to look at her more closely. She was sweating, not from the heat, although the heat was intense, but from panic. Her eyes were red, not just from crying but from sleepless nights. She slowly approached the counter, as if crossing a minefield, and placed a crumpled note and a few coins on the surface. She spoke softly, her voice trembling. "Please, this is the medicine my son needs. He's at the hospital. The doctor said he won't make it through the night without it. I don't have enough, but can you sell me just half? Just half the dose, please." The clerk looked at the note, then at the money. He shook his head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a controlled medicine. I can only sell it in a full box. I can't sell half." She remained motionless for a few seconds, her eyes fixed on the medicine box in the clerk's hand. Then, as if something inside her shattered, she fell to her knees. She wept with her face buried in her hands, her body shaking with pain and helplessness. And Sadio couldn't look away. That image cut through him like a knife. He stepped forward, still stunned, and knelt down beside her. "Ma'am, please tell me what's going on." She lifted her face, surprised, and only then recognized him. Her eyes widened with a mix of disbelief and shame. It's my son. He's 5 years old. He got a severe infection after surgery. The doctor said he needs this antibiotic today, now. I sold everything. Everything I had. I have nowhere else to turn. I begged for help. No one has any money. I just want him to live. I just want to see him open his eyes again." Her words echoed in Sadio's mind like a hammer. He didn't reply immediately. He just stood up and walked to the counter. "Give me the full box," he said firmly, "and whatever else she asked for, I'll pay for it all." The clerk hesitated for a second, surprised, but then complied. He handed over the medicines and rang up the total. Sadio didn't even look. He pulled out his card, inserted it, typed the PIN, and that was it. He went back to the woman, who now looked at him with tear-filled eyes, caught between gratitude and disbelief. He handed her the medicine with steady hands. "Go to the hospital. Now. He's going to be okay." She took the box like someone holding a second chance. She stood up with difficulty, her legs weak, her face soaked with tears. She tried to thank him, but her voice broke. She simply nodded, clutching the medicine to her chest. "God bless you," she whispered, before rushing out the door, pushing it open with her shoulder, as if her son's life depended on every second. The bell jingled again. The night outside looked even heavier, but inside the pharmacy there was a strange light, a deep silence. The clerk watched Sadio in silence, and he in turn stood there for a few moments, staring at the door. He knew he had done the right thing, but what he didn't know, yet, was just how much that simple choice would change everything. The hours passed slowly that night in Dakar. The sky had broken open shortly after Sadio Mané left the pharmacy. Heavy rain poured down like a lament from the heavens, washing the streets in silence. He continued on to his house, but his mind found no rest. Lying in bed, listening to the rhythmic tapping of rain against the windows, he couldn't stop thinking about the woman and her son. Who were they? Were they safe? Did they make it in time? Was the boy still alive? He tried to convince himself he'd done all he could, that the rest was out of his hands. But it was a lie. Something inside him churned like a storm. It wasn't curiosity. It was a deeper unease, a tug in his soul that whispered, "It's not over yet." The next morning, with the sky still overcast, Sadio called a doctor friend who worked at one of the public hospitals in the city. Without going into many details, he asked if there had been an emergency involving a child and a rare antibiotic the night before. "Are you talking about little Yusuf?" the doctor asked. Yes, critical case. We were just about to intubate and transfer him, but the mother showed up with the medicine at the last second. It was a miracle. He improved quickly through the night. He's stable now, sleeping." Sadio closed his eyes for a moment. He felt his heart finally ease, but at the same time something new stirred within him. A need to see the boy. To see with his own eyes that the child, the one he helped without even knowing his name, was truly okay. That afternoon he drove to the hospital. He wore a cap and mask to avoid attention. He asked to speak with the boy's mother, Aissatou. After some resistance and a few quiet explanations, he was led to the pediatric ward. She was sitting in a plastic chair beside the bed, eyes down, holding the boy's hand as he slept. A skinny little thing, his face pale, but his vital signs had already improved. A nurse whispered something in her ear and pointed discreetly at Sadio. The woman lifted her gaze. When she recognized him, she covered her mouth and her eyes immediately filled with tears. She stood slowly, as if in reverence, as if she were standing before an angel. You came back. I came to see if he's all right." She took a deep breath, trying to hold back her emotion, and motioned for him to come closer. Sadio stepped to the bedside. He looked down at the sleeping boy. His chest rose and fell slowly, as if the world had finally granted him peace. "His name is Yusuf. He's 5 years old. He's my only son." She paused, eyes fixed on the boy. "His father died in an accident last year. Since then, I've done everything I can to hold it together. I clean houses, wash clothes, sometimes go days without food so he can eat. But I failed when he needed me most. And you saved my child. You saved my life." Sadio remained silent. Her words hit him deep. It wasn't the first time he'd helped someone. He donated, funded schools, built hospitals. But this was different. This wasn't a project. This was a face, a story, a mother's heart that almost broke in front of him. "Don't say you failed. You did everything. You fought to the end. What I did was just a gesture anyone should make." She smiled, but the tears kept falling. There was a reverence in her eyes, a gratitude that words couldn't hold, only presence. In the minutes that followed, they talked more. Her name was Aissatou. She lived in a small rented room with 2 other women in a poor neighborhood. She was in debt, unsure how she'd pay the hospital bill, the medicine, or even the next few meals. Sadio listened in silence, his gaze steady. When he left the hospital, he turned to her and said, "I'll be back tomorrow." And he came back, the next day, and the day after that. He brought food, toys, clothes for Yusuf. He paid the hospital bills, spoke with the administration, left everything covered. But he didn't stop there. He took Aissatou and Yusuf to a modest hotel where they could rest. He arranged a consultation with a trusted pediatrician, got lab work done, ensured the best care for the boy. But more than anything, he offered dignity. He sat down with her and asked, "What are you good at?" What do you know how to do? She hesitated. No one had ever asked her that with such seriousness. After a long pause, she said, I'm good with cleaning. I organize everything. And I'm reliable. If I say I'll do something, I do it. Sadio smiled. I've got a place for you. At the training center I'm building, we're still assembling the cleaning and maintenance team. I want you to coordinate it. And it's not charity. It's because I believe you'll do it with the same love you have for your son. She cried again, this time without fear, without shame. There, in front of a man the world saw as a superstar, she felt human again, seen, valued, chosen. Meanwhile, Yusuf quickly recovered. He was a sharp, curious little boy with a wide smile and endless energy. In the following days, he was already running around the hotel corridors, making staff laugh with his stories and mischief. Sadio visited whenever he could, bringing balls, playing with him, sharing football tricks and stories. And little by little, something stronger than chance grew between them. A bond made of compassion, of improbable meetings, and of decisions made in the dark that forever change lives. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between Sadio Mané, Aissatou, and little Yusuf grew into something none of them could have predicted. What had started as a gesture of compassion on a desperate night became a story of rebuilding, of hope, and of healing, not just for the boy's body, but for the invisible wounds they each carried. Yusuf smiled again with the strength of someone who had stared into the dark and come back. He was sharp, talkative, and loved running around the training center where his mother now worked. And Sadio, he found himself increasingly involved, not out of duty, but from a place of genuine affection. Whenever he was in Dakar, he visited them. Whenever he couldn't be, he called. He wasn't just a footballer helping a family anymore. He was their friend, a steady presence. Aissatou blossomed. In her new job, she quickly showed her skills, her organization, her reliability, her punctuality. She gained respect from the other staff and was soon promoted to cleaning supervisor. But more than the title, what she truly gained was dignity. She walked with her head high, her eyes bright again, and a quiet smile that seemed to say, I made it through. One afternoon, Sadio was invited to a ceremony at the training center, a celebration for the first wave of local employees and collaborators. There was music, dancing, children running across the field. He arrived early, as he always did, and watched from afar as people gathered. That's when he felt a soft thud against his leg. Uncle Sadio, Yusuf shouted, clutching a ball with both hands. Are you going to play with me or just stand there watching? Sadio laughed, crouched, and ruffled the boy's hair. If I play with you, you have to promise to go easy on me. I don't want to be humiliated again. Okay, but only if you teach me that trick you did against Bayern. Deal. They began playing right there, to the delight of everyone watching. There was something magical about that scene. An international star, a global idol, kicking a ball around with a boy who, not long ago, was fighting for his life. To many, it seemed improbable, but to them, it was just natural. Later in the day, the event paused for a surprise ceremony. One of the project coordinators took the microphone. The crowd quieted. Today isn't just about celebrating this center, it's also a day of gratitude. A few weeks ago, one of our collaborators did something that changed lives, not just by funding a project or giving a job, but by seeing a person in the crowd. He saw a mother. He saw a son. He saw the value of a life. And today, we honor Sadio Mané, not the footballer, not the celebrity, but the man who reached out when no one else did. Applause erupted. People stood. Aissatou wept silently in the crowd, and Yusuf clung to Sadio's leg with a proud grin. The microphone was handed to him. With his usual humility, Sadio walked up to the small stage. Thank you truly. But what I did shouldn't be seen as special. Helping someone in pain, someone desperate, someone just trying to save their child. That should be the norm. The real miracle is right there, he said, pointing to Aissatou. She never gave up, not even with nothing, not even alone. She fought until the end. And because of her faith, Yusuf is here today. Me? I was just the tool in that moment. All I did was listen to something inside and act. That's what we need to do more. Listen to what the heart says and act without fear. More applause, more tearful eyes. But Sadio stepped down without the air of a hero. Just the calm smile of someone who knew, without a doubt, he had touched eternity through a simple act. In the months that followed, Aissatou was able to rent a small apartment for her and her son. With a stable income, she began repaying her debts. Yusuf was enrolled in a better school and began football lessons. And of course, he told all his classmates that Sadio Mané was his uncle, even if blood didn't tie them. What they had was stronger. One day, Yusuf asked, "Uncle Sadio, why did you help me that night in the pharmacy?" Sadio thought for a moment before answering. "Because I saw your face in the face of many I've known. Because I grew up watching my mother sacrifice so I could eat, study, dream. And when I saw your mother kneeling there, afraid to lose you, it was like watching my own story again. And no one abandons their own story." Yusuf smiled, then grew serious. "I'm going to help people too one day, just like you." Sadio pulled him into a tight hug. "I know you will, and you'll do it even better than I did." Years later, when Yusuf was a teenager, a new headline appeared in the newspapers. From boy saved by Sadio Mané to rising star of Senegalese football. The story that began on a suffocating night now inspired others. It helped other mothers, other children. And the cycle continued, because in the end what Sadio had done wasn't just buy a box of medicine. He planted a seed, and that seed, watered with love, faith, and dignity, grew into something eternal.